Welcome to the Registered Investment Advisor Podcast, where financial services marketing expert Seth Green interviews experts, executives, and top producers to share can't-miss tips on how they successfully manage their financial service firms, grow their businesses, create great relationships, and influence the industry. And now, here's your host, Seth Green.
Welcome to the RIA podcast. This is your host, Seth Green. Today, I have the good fortune to be interviewing Terry DuPont from DuPont Advisory. Terry, thanks so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's go back in time just a little bit. How'd you get into the business in the first place?
That's a good question. I was all of about 21 years old, almost 22. Once I answered an ad in a newspaper. And it got me started in the business, but not where I wanted to be. Okay. And so a lot of things happened along the way, but ultimately, I ended up owning my own firm. And then we were a financial planning firm, but I was a broker, a Series 7, and had an insurance license. And I saw so many things going wrong in the financial services arena. The companies were only concerned about profits and products, not the people. And so I felt that there had to be a better way. And ultimately, I shifted gears and started my own registered investment advisory and legal fiduciary firm about 15 years ago. And haven't looked back since because it's been a breath of fresh air. I'm not under thumb except for people telling me what I have to do for clients when they have no idea what the needs of the clients are. And so now I can do a holistic and a proper process with clients and put their interest above everything else.
I think that is probably one of the main reasons why most RIAs go the independent RIA route, is to be able to call their own shots and treat the clients like they want to and not worry about quotas or products and be truly independent. Who is an ideal client for you now?
Any successful family that, probably has assets under, liquid assets of 500,000 or more, closer to $1 million. I mean, it's getting to the point where I have to raise that minimum every once in a while. But let's just say $500,000 of investable assets, or small to medium-sized business owners doing, 10 to 15, $20 million in revenues each year.
And let's separate them. What are some of the biggest mistakes those consumer families you're working with are making, and how are you helping fix those?
Right. Well, the world has changed drastically, not only over the last 10 years, but the last 20 and 30 years. And most of the planning that goes on, if 90% of the industry is the brokerage industry, 10% is the independent RIA portion. And most of the planning that goes on in that 90% is not planning. It's just product sales for the most part. And so we change that. We have a process because we are product agnostic. Okay. We want to fill a hole, fill a need, not try and put a square peg into a round hole, which is what a big part of the industry does. So a lot of people are not accustomed to the things that we talk about because their advisors aren't talking to them about it. The increase in taxes that is imperative is definitely going to happen, and helping clients reduce their taxation in retirement, number one. But it's not a product driven process like the 90% of the industry. Most people think they have to take excessive and unnecessary risk in order to reach their goals, and that's just not true. The brokerage industry wants them to think that so they can sell them more product and provide them more risk, but it's not true. Not with the type of planning capabilities that we have today in this world.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, on the business owner side, what are some of the biggest mistakes that they're making?
Business owners, that's a different niche because they've got a lot of different opportunities that they're not taking advantage of because they don't know the opportunities exist. And what I mean by that is, risk mitigation, decreasing the risk in their business, and tax mitigation mainly because business owners have more opportunities to reduce their taxes than individuals do. And so what we find that most business owners are thinking that the amount of taxes that they're paying is a necessary evil because their CPA tells them that's what they've got to pay. Unfortunately, with a few exceptions, most CPAs, and there's a lot of good ones out there. Okay. I've got friends and clients who are CPAs, and they'll all admit we don't do tax reduction planning. Okay. And so most small and medium-sized business owners aren't getting the tax reduction planning that is available to them, but they don't know it.
I think that makes a lot of sense and is sorely an untapped need in the marketplace. You've also built something a little not only unique in terms of some of the strategies you're bringing to the table, but you also have kind of I would call it like a family office approach, but you're not requiring your clients to have, 10, 20, $30 million to get that. Can you talk a little bit about that part of your business?
Yeah. The wealthy in this country have had access to a family office for years. But it's been a void when you look at the middle market, the small and medium sized business owners, and the average American on the street who's been successful and successful families. And so, what we did in conjunction with some other professionals around the country, is we formed a virtual family office so that we can bring the most advanced planning techniques and strategies to Main Street, if you will, so that most other people can have access to these strategies and techniques and wealth preservation and wealth accumulation tools that's been available to the wealthy for decades.
That is fantastic. How have those efforts on your end been received? Like, what is the response? What is the perception of folks when you kind of share that difference?
It's kind of a breath of fresh air to them, obviously. There is a little pushback because they say, well, if I could be reducing my taxes, my CPA would have done it, right? That's not usually the case. Number one, they don't have the time, especially if they're successful. They've got too many clients to take care of, and they don't have the time to spend giving you all kinds of different tax strategies. We specialize in it, so we do have the time. But they like the idea. They just have to come over the hurdle that it exists for them and they can take advantage of it. That's the biggest hurdle.
You've built a lot of relationships with other related professionals. Talk a little bit about how you've done that and kind of your stable of experts type of theory.
Yeah. I mean, the problem most people have is when they've got a question, they may have to go to several different people before they get the satisfactory or correct answer. Okay. And so we saw that problem decades ago. And that was one of the main reasons of putting together the virtual family office, so that we would have all the experts, whether it's, tax reduction planning, risk mitigation, income tax reduction, mitigation of estate and capital gains taxes, wealth management, financial management, and business legal services, as well as estate planning and legacy planning. And so if they have a question or a concern, they only have to make one phone call. That's to us, because we have all the experts. Now, I don't know all the answers. I just have all the people that has all the answers. Okay. And it makes it more convenient and more friendly, more user friendly for the client, because they don't have to be running around calling everybody else trying to get the answers that they need. They call one place, and we connect them with all the professionals that they need.
Because of your network, you've been able to run pretty lean. Talk a little bit about the internal team that it takes to kind of support that.
Actually, it's very surprising. If I was doing 20 years ago what we're doing today, I would probably have to have 40, 50, 60 people under the roof, okay, as an employees. The way with technology and the culture of America has changed, you combine all those things, and all these experts are at my fingertips, but they're not employees. They're strategic partners. So internally, I only have to have about 4 or 5 people, myself, and actually including myself, to be 5 or 6, but of clerical people and administrative people to run the whole thing.
That is beautiful. I mean, you've achieved success not only for your own firm, but for your clients, which is even more important. What's your biggest challenge now?
Our biggest challenge now? Oh, that's a good question. I'd say our biggest challenge now is a little bit of growing pain and finding the right people when we need to add internal people, finding the right ones. As you well know, a lot of people just don't want to work anymore.
I was going to say, how has, pandemic, post-pandemic affected?
Yeah. But that's probably, it's very comfortable for me because we've got all the specialists. And so whenever we do need somebody, they can probably help us find somebody in our area that, to fill a role if we need one. So.
For sure. I know that you are a big believer in constant improvement and continuing education. Who are some of the other folks in our industry that you're learning from on a regular basis?
One would be a guy by the name of Seth Green.
I wasn't trying, other than me. Thank you for the shameless plug.
I follow Tom Hegna and, a lot of people. David McKnight, we're heavily involved in the power of zero concept, which is helping working Americans retire at or near the zero tax bracket. And that's very important because the imminent increase in the taxes that we're going to have to pay if we don't do some planning you can hardly fathom it. I mean, most experts, including the government's budget office, accounting and budget office, says taxes are going to have to double probably in the next 10 to 12 years over time in order that we can just pay our bills. And so, helping Americans reduce those taxes for their retirement so that they can live a comfortable retirement like they planned on is using the power of zero. And we work very closely with, the IFW, who's a nonprofit, and to help Americans do that, help them reduce risk and volatility in their retirement, as well as the amount of taxes that they're going to have to pay.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Well, there must be a lot of it because I'm 66 and I have no plans on retiring. My junior partner, Amanda, she just quits talking about it because she knows that I'll be working on until I die, probably. And she's the heir apparent, which, kind of irritates her, but it's just that I love what I do. I love helping people, especially in this world as it is today with all the problems that are going on. Look, I don't care what people do at the end of the day. I really don't care what they do. I just want to make sure they have all the available choices and options to make their life better, period. Whether they work with us or somebody else, I just want to make sure they have all the options to have the best life they can have. And it's hard to find those options, okay, in this world, especially when 90% of the industry are product pushers. So if I was part of the mainstream or the norm as compared to the exception, I probably wouldn't have as much fun because I'd be just like everybody else. And that's the last thing I want to do in this world, especially when it comes to people's lifestyles and assets and income. It takes more planning than it does product.
I think that is very well said. You have an alphabet soup of letters after your name. What are all the designations?
Good question. CRPS is Chartered Retirement Plan Specialist. CWPP is Certified Wealth Preservation Planner. And the CPHD, it's not a doctorate. It's a Certified Philanthropic Developer for charitable planning, tax, estate planning issues, because everybody has a choice where their money goes. They have three choices. You give your money to your heirs, charity, or the federal government, and you get to choose two. You only get two, okay? So we help people improve their lives by giving less to the government and more to charity so that they actually get more for themselves.
I love it. Well, we know your time is incredibly valuable. We know you're very busy. We greatly appreciate you spending some time with us. For our folks watching or listening who want to learn more, where is the best place for us to send them?
Good question. DuPontadvisory.com is our website. My email is Terry@DuPontadvisory.com. And my private cell number, it's not private anymore because I give it to everybody, but it's area code 260-229-9291. That's 260-229-9291.
Well, you certainly didn't have to do that. We greatly appreciate that. This has been Seth Green for the RIA podcast with Terry DuPont of DuPont Advisory. Terry, thanks again for joining us.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for watching or listening. We'll talk to you or see you next time.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.